Great, yep.
Okay, so my talk's going to be about Christmas seals. In fact, I only have one odds and ends at the moment, so it's just Christmas seals plus one slide. And it's going to be the Christmas seals of North Borneo, Sabah, and Sarawak, with a little bit of extra in the introduction. So, seasonal talk, it was supposed to be 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we're still just past Christmas. So a brief introduction to Christmas seals. They were introduced, well, firstly to say tuberculosis was a big, very feared disease at the beginning of the 20th century. And in 1904, Einar Holbol, a Danish postal clerk, developed the idea of adding an extra charitable stamp to that could be added to the mail, with the money going towards tuberculosis. And this was the first Christmas seals. Denmark, it shows the Queen of Denmark. And apparently 4 million of these were sold. So it was a great success. So that's the origin of Christmas seals. And since then, the idea quickly spread all the way around the world, and there have been Christmas seals released by many, many countries over many decades. And here's just a simple example of Cape Town in 1949. Nice one. It's actually going to Edinburgh. I used to live in Edinburgh, very near Collington Road, as it happens. So Kersiefs is Christmas in Afrikaans. And the cross you can see, the red cross that you see on the seal, is was used by Godfrey de Bouillon, who's the Duke of Lorraine during the Crusades. And this cross was adopted as the emblem of the crusade against tuberculosis. So this is the Singapore Anti-Tuberculosis Association is well known, and it's released many seals. I'm not going to cover Singapore today, but this covers, and there's a nice early example. Singapore started releasing seals in 1948. This covers 1949. You can see the seal on the reverse, and it's been cancelled. I'm not sure what the rules were. I don't think there were any fixed rules. In theory, there was of course, no need to cancel the seal. It's not for postal use, but as far as I'm aware, there was no rule against it. So that's a rather nice cover that recently, I don't have it, that recently sold on eBay, not to me, for a rather high price. So let me start with a chronology. I'm going to show, well, briefly, I'm not going to show very little from Malaya and Malaysia, but be aware that their Christmas seals were released just in 1961 for Malaya, and I'll show those in a second, and intermittently between 1964 and 1991 in Malaysia. And I've never seen any Malaysian seals used on cover, actually used, either in Peninsular Malaysia or East Malaysia. So, but be aware they were there. What I'm going to focus on mostly is North Borneo seals, which were released between 1960 and 1962. Sabah seals, I should say NATA is the North Borneo Anti-Tuberculosis Association. Sabah seals, which were released in 1963 and then through to 1967, then intermittently up to 1985. Sabah as a Sabah Anti-Tuberculosis Association. And then I'm going to show some British seals on the way. Why am I going to do that? Because so the NAPT seals are a national association for prevention of tuberculosis, which ran up to 1948. Then there are other British seals released after that. Why am I going to show these? Because for starters, in Sarawak, there were no Christmas seals, Sarawak Christmas seals released at all, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And prior to 1960, there were no North Borneo Christmas seals, and almost invariably all the seals I've seen are British, the few that I've seen for those years. So just briefly, these are the nice. I've got a nice booklet here of the Malaya seals, just to show you the MAPTB. It comes in a nice little fold, and you can see all the seals actually come in a booklet on the right-hand side. That's the Malaya seals. We've got an example of the Malaysia seals. So you can find these in big sheets. I say I've never seen them used. Tolong Melawan Batuk Kering. So Batuk Kering is literally dry cough or cough dry. Tolong Melawan help to prevent dry cough, and dry cough, of course, is what tuberculosis is, and how it's known in Malay, Bahasa. So let's get cracking on our territories. So I'll start just by showing the seals. They're really rather attractive, aren't they? So the first Nabata, that's the North Borneo seals, were released in 1961, and show these lovely designs of orchids. There's no year on those, but I'll show you they're 1960. I'll prove that later. In four designs, and they will come in sheets. I think the 1960 seals came in sheets of 25. I don't have any of those sheets. And there's some nice bird seals released in 1961 for different birds. You can see the dates on there. They've all got the Cross of Lorraine. And then 1962, the butterflies. And those are the only three. Of course, 1963, we move on to Sabah because Malaysian independence occurred, and North Borneo transitioned into Sabah in 1963. And I do have a nice sheet of the butterfly seals on the right-hand side. They're all very nice. So here's what I've got in my collection. In fact, this is what I have in my collection, with the exception of 1966 here, which is just, I'm afraid I don't have in my collection, can't find it yet. That was taken off the internet. Here are the years that I've seen or have in my collection for Sabata. So it's 63, 64, 65, 66. As far as I'm aware, there are no seals released in 67. And then 68, 69, and 70. There is a big website doing Christmas seals of the world. I haven't put the URL up, which is where I kind of get the coverage from. So I believe that intermittently seals, including some overprint seals, were released up to 1985, but I haven't seen them. If anyone's got them, I should say my collection is far from complete. So if anyone's got any material that could help me in some of the gaps that I have, I would be delighted to see that. So again, they were released in sets of four through to 66, and then we just have single seals for 68, 69, and 70. And yeah, they're all rather nice, attractive. And most of them are relatively common to find, except 66, the sale. So let's move on then to going to some covers. So as I said, pre-1960. Actually, that's not right. It should be pre-19. Yeah, okay. I should say pre-1960 in North Borneo, British seals, not necessarily MAPT seals were used. It's pre-1949, the NAPT seals, which are British, were used. See this nice cover. So and this cover is traveling presumably at a printed matter rate. That's 468 cents. Going to the USA, almost certainly had a Christmas card inside. And of course, you could send a Christmas card. My understanding is you could send material printed matter with up to, is it 6 words written inside? You couldn't write a letter inside printed matter, although it doesn't actually say printed matter on here, but almost certainly had a Christmas card. You can see it's the NAPT seals, again dated 1954. And the two seals themselves, you can see, are somewhat different. These seals came in big sheets, where the seals themselves, you can see one has 1954 down the side, the other has it on the bottom right, and so on. So it's quite a lot for the collector. I don't know if anyone knows anything about Zachariah Gunn, but actually if you Google Zachariah Gunn, a whole lot of stuff comes up, but I can't make head nor tail of most of it. Apparently she lived from 1946 to 1994 and was a member of the Malayan Pen Friends Association branch in Labuan Island. In 1936, does anyone know about Zachariah Gunn? I've still got quite a few question marks about that cover. Nice cover. So it was sent in 1954 from Jesselton. Next one, Kuching. Cover 1955. So again, there were never any, as I said, there were never any Christmas seals released for Sarawak. So again, we have a British seal, NAPT. Nice that these seals are dated. So there's a 1955 date on it. It's a pity one of the stamps has come off here, have been taken off. It's going to Burma. It's AML, you can just see it says second class. Just below the AML is just in second class. So again, I presume this contained a Christmas card. But presumably it was going at quite a, I don't know whether it was a higher rate to Burma, but it was at least 20 cents and presumably some more. Don't know how much more. So this one's courtesy of Faron. Do visit, of course, his My North Borneo Stamps website. This one's again North Borneo. These covers, by the way, I'm showing them in chronological order, which is why I'm flitting back and forth from North Borneo to Sarawak and back. So this one's going to Jamaica. Again, I presume at a printed matter rate or second class rate. 12 cents this time. Two seals on the reverse. And oh, by the way, the reason these Christmas seals are called seals is because the ideal way to use them was to seal the envelope, as in this case. See on the reverse, the two seals are actually over the seal. That's what they call Christmas seals. That's where you were supposed to put them, although many people put them on the front for show. It's got nice entry cancel into Jonestown, Jamaica, and interestingly, that cuts across one of the seals on the verso. So I assume there were no rules for or against actually cancelling the seals themselves. Unlike, for example, Forces Post, where there was very, very firm rules about that kind of thing. Nice cover. Okay, so this is back to Sarawak now. This is courtesy of Roger. He kindly routed out, I believe it took him an hour or two, routed out a couple of covers for me with Christmas seals on. Well worth it because they're nice covers. So it's going 8-cent rate. So these are great for collecting Christmas mail that you assume went at the second class rate, or that can't have been printed matter rate. It must have been the second class rate because Christmas cards are not printed matter as such. It must be second class. Correct me if I'm wrong there. This is 1958, so this is the last year in which the NAPT, the National Association Prevention of Tuberculosis seals, their British seals are used. And these seals came in big sheets. So this is a nice Kuching, 6 November 58, cancel an 8-cent stamp. I mean, these covers are not particularly common at all. They're not particularly valuable either, thankfully so, because otherwise I guess they'd be incredibly easy to forge, but I don't think there's any forgeries around. There's no need. So now we move, this is, so this is again prior to 1959, that's right. So the North Borneo Anti-Tuberculosis Association was, I'm trying to see what year, it was formed in 1952. So yeah, the first seals were not until 1960. So it took a while for them to get around to producing the seals, but they did produce stationery. So there's this nice long envelope which has the Cross of Lorraine and the details of the association, including the post office box in Jesselton. Nice cover, traveling within Jesselton at a local rate, 6 cents. And again, it has the British seal, and this time there's no NAPT on it. It's a 1959. So there's that's a standard seal produced in Britain. Indeed, I have a sheet to show you. So this is. I took this off the internet. You could buy these British seals in big sheets. This is a part sheet. Buy TB seals, 4 shillings per 100. Help your tuberculosis care committee. And of course, you have to remember that TB was still rife across the world, even in the 1960s. These associations carried on, and the battle carried on and on. Okay. Another cover in my collection. This is 1960. So this is the first year that the Nabata seals were released. I've got this nice cover going to P. Ramley. Interestingly, I think it is probably the P. Ramley, because P. Ramley, P stands for Puteh Ramley, was a famous Malaysian actor, filmmaker, musician, composer, etc., etc. Very famous among the Malay community in Malaysia. This one went registered. I guess if you wanted to make sure you got it to your hero, you had to send it registered. I presume it's the P. Ramley. Nice cover. Traveling at 45-cent rate. Another one here's another cover that presumably had a Christmas card inside it. Second class airmail. Seems to have rather a lot of 35, 36, 40 cents. Not sure that's the second class rate. It doesn't seem like it to me. That seems like full rate, but going from Lab 1, 1961, one of the 1961 seals. So it's clear a use of second class airmail. I presume, or I should check actually, I think all these were unsealed. If you send anything second class, it had to be unsealed so that postal clerks could check you weren't writing a letter inside.
That is the correct second class airmail rate in 1961.
That's the correct rate at 40
cents to the United States.
Okay, so it's quite steep.
30 to Europe.
Okay, good, thank you. Another of Rogers covers, thank you very much. Another second class airmail, 30 to Europe. Very good, because this one's got a 30% Malaysian stamp, Malaysia stamp, upside down. Sent Kuching in the 7th, I think it's probably December 1963. I couldn't make it out, again with a rather attractive British seal in the top left corner. Okay, so now we move on to the kind of final section of my talk. And this is really, I think, if you like, the jewel in the crown for collectors of seals. In that advertising sheets were released across the world for advertising the different seals that collectors that were done by collectors. This was sent. So we've got an advertising sheet on the left-hand side there for the 1960 Nabata seals, and I've done a couple of blow-ups on the right-hand side to show you bits of the sheet. So this advertising sheet has a Nabata emblem at the top with the Cross of Lorraine, sent to Mr. Costella. I think Mr. Costella was probably in South America somewhere. I bought this in an auction from South America. And there were seals from, I don't know, maybe 50 plus countries collected by Mr. Costella, all going there. And you can see, let's see, there are four different. It shows 4 different designs, which were actually, and it tells you what the cost was. They were produced in sheets of 25, as I mentioned earlier, and tells you the cost is $1 Malaysian per sheet, with equivalent English and US provided. And the designs, it also tells you the designs were by Mrs. Sheila Ross, who in fact is a celebrated author of several books in North Borneo. Perhaps the most memorable, which is A Log Across the Road, which dealt with several aspects of the Malayan emergency. So that's a nice thing to have. I have 1 or 2 more of these advertising sheets. So this one's the following year, 1961, again from the same collection. This one's rather nice because it has all the office bearers at the top. Again, there are 4 seals, again designed by Mrs. Sheila Ross. And interestingly, this time the cost is 50 Malaysian cents per sheet. So what had happened there? Maybe they didn't sell very many seals the year before and they decided to reduce the price. I'm not sure. So you can look at the different office bearers. The president was W.A. Spadro, who was government printer. Mrs. Barton, the honour treasurer, was Leong Seng Hui. And the patrons are listed, Sir William Good and Lady Good. And apparently Sir William Good was a British colonial administrator who served as governor of Singapore from 1957 to 1959 and government of North Borneo from 1960 to 1963. So there's lots of information on these sheets, and if you can find them, they're great to collect. (1962), another again much the same. I'll give you a quick look at that. I don't have much more to say about that one. It's similar to the last one, telling you that it's sold in sheets of 16 at 50 cents.
Lost their treasurer.
Say this again. So then we move on to, I've only got one Sabah. By the way, if anyone has any of these advertising sheets in your collection, particularly for years, I'm not sure, I would love to see them, of course. I only have one advertising sheet for Sabah, the Sabah seals, and it's this one with some accompanying documentation. So it's rather nice. Again, it's got all the office bearers at the top, the same address in PO Box in Jesselton. Interestingly, this one sent out appeared just prior to the release of the 90s. It was sent out in 1966, but shows the 1965 seals. But you can see on the right-hand side, the 1966 seashells are listed. So I think this was sent out shortly before the 1966 release of the seashell seals. But that's my best guess as to what's happening here. There is some documentation I'm going to show next, which might back that up. So again, the price is still 50 cents. Just a nice thing. These are nice things to have. So this letter came with it. So this is not going to Mr. Castell anymore. This is a separate auction. I bought this one from. So it talks about dearmadam with reference to inquiry ... I'm sending the 1965 seals, and the 1966 will be coming. Interestingly, you can see the secretary is listed as on the top left is Mr. L.A. Mobijon, I think. This is signed off by a Pat Olson, honorary secretary, and in England. So I don't know what you might think about this, but to me that tells me that the seals were produced likely in England, and that the advertising sheets are actually sent from England. That is my conclusion, correct or not. And the seals were sent out to North. All these advertising sheets were produced in England. That has to be my guess at this, because it's signed off from Yorkshire, England.
Oh, Tom, I think the address at the bottom, Pat Olson, is where the letter is going.
Oh, right.
I think, and that is the dear madam. I presume Pat is Patricia. And
Right.
I think the
So
signature,
thank you. That at last makes some sense to me.
I think the signature is Moby John.
Yeah, that's one problem of this. I couldn't make out the signature.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going.
Very good. Okay, thank you. You sorted that one out for me. I think that makes far more sense. Pity Moby John doesn't have a more clearer signature, but yes.
But you can see the sort of B and the J and the H.
Yes, it's kind of there, isn't it? Yes, you're right.
And an N at the end.
Well, that makes far more sense that the advertising sheets were actually sent from North Borneo or Sabah. Very nice. And this is the final item that came with, again, the same lot, all part of this, the same little lot that went together. There's this sheet. Does anyone know what the big purple B in violet is for? I don't. So this little yellow sheet went with the last advertising sheet and letter. I presume they all went together. So it's in several languages. Pertubuhan, Mencegah, Batuk Kering Sabah, Association for Prevention of Batuk Kering Tuberculosis of Sabah, and so on. What a nice thing. Okay, that's me almost done. I was going to wish everyone a happy Christmas on this one. So this is a later cover, 1971, sent from Kuching, going to England at full postal rate, and it's got a nice British 1971. So after the NAPT was renamed the Chest and Heart Association in 1949, hence why NAPT seals were not used. And here we've got a Chest and Heart Association seal, and this is the only cover I've seen like it. So a rather belated happy Christmas to everyone on that one. And then I have just one last item, which was my one odds and end to show everyone, which is this item. There's no Christmas seal on it. It's not a Christmas card. It's a Happy New Year, Happy Chinese New Year card on the right-hand side. It went inside the envelope on the left-hand side. The envelope's rather nice because it's sent within Kuala Lumpur. It's Kuala Lumpur 1969, but it has a mixture of Perlis and Sabah stamps on it, which is really rather nice. And I was going to wish everyone, especially all the Malaysian Chinese, a special happy Chinese New Year, Year of the Rabbit. And that's it.
Thank you very much for the greeting. Yeah.
That's it, Roger. I'm done.
Thank you, Tom. Very nice. Enjoy that.
Yeah.
Well, my apologies for joining you late. I had problems. My computer's just come back from being sorted, and it obviously hasn't been completely sorted. So I'm now back on my wife's computer. So I enjoyed what I saw very much.
Oh, right.
And I've never been particularly interested in collecting Christmas seals, but I have invited a speaker at our next Christmas meeting at the King's Lynn Stamp Club to be showing her collection of Christmas seals, which seems very appropriate.
Very
She
appropriate.
collects them, does she have any Malaysian ones?
I don't know. I always ask.
Borneo ones?
She has a very extensive collection, so I could ask, indeed. She's I can't remember her name because I'm terrible with names, but she's one of the newly elected officers at the Royal. There's not too many lady officers there.
Not Daphne, is it?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
So if she's got any Malaysian ones, especially on cover or double especially, I hope you saw the advertising sheets.
Yeah, they were nice. Very nice.
Any of those, yeah, especially for years that I haven't got in my collection, would be very desirable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I say it's probably all world, so she may or may not have. So, but I will.
Well, those advertising sheets, of course, as I said, were produced throughout, not just in Borneo, but all the countries, many countries at least, many countries.
Yeah.
So she may have, she probably has some of those.
Yes, and also the other comment I did send as a chat was it was nice to see a Wickner cover. You probably all know all about Colonel Wickner, Australian colonel who was left in North Borneo to get the railway running again, and he stayed there for many years.
No, didn't. Well, I didn't.
Tom, it might be worth putting a note into the Sarawak Journal, if you haven't already done, asking people to send you scans of any covers with seals on, because I'm sure many of us, I've found 2, and I'm still looking for this 3rd one that I know I've got. People do have covers which happen to have been sent at Christmas and will have a seal on, but they've got it in their collection for some other reason. And a prompt, I'm sure, would get a response from members.
Thank you, Roger. I'll do that. I think that's a good idea. At some point, I think it'd be good to write all this up, but I'd like to see more, ideally like to see more material first. Or something, write it up as a proper article for the journal. For starters, I ideally need to see the remaining Sabah seals. There are a few years apparently listed on one of the websites, but with no pictures on one of the websites. So I need to see those, but in any covers or advertising sheets would be good. John, you don't have any. You have a vast North Borneo and Sabah collection. Do you have any?
I have no idea.
Do you have a lot of 1960s kind of era?
Oh, I do indeed, yes. But I wouldn't have collected them specifically. But I'd be surprised if there isn't 1 or 2. I'll have a look.
Thank you. I'll take up your suggestion, Roger, and I'll send in a picture of one of my covers or what have you, and as a letter, and ask if anyone's got anything more they can for both, of course, North Borneo and Sarawak.
Yeah, I've just had a chance, Tom, to look at Bill Batty Smith's postmark book, which has the rate tables in the back. The Burma cover, which has a stamp missing, would have been 30 cents as a second class airmail, and the 8-cent rate, it was the old imperial sea mail rate, including the UK. So those would have gone. They could have gone by ship. I think in some cases they were effectively, it was an all-up service, so they could have been sent by air at the post office's discretion, as I understand it, but potentially went by ship.
I wouldn't want to send it by ship because it would almost certainly arrive rather late if you're sending something for Christmas. But yes.
They arrived late this year, even with air.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, some may not have arrived yet. Oh dear, yeah.
It's interesting you're talking about post office's discretion. Sometimes when I send books abroad, I always send them by the second class service, if you like, and sometimes they get there within the next 2 or 3 days. So and sometimes they take weeks.
Yes.
I think it depends on which route they go. Certainly incoming stuff from places like Australia is depending on which aeroplane they put it on, depends on where it ends up. If it ends up in, I think it's Belgium, or is it Holland, one of the two, then it tends to sit in a warehouse for a while until the customs get round to clearing them. So you can
that's my understanding as well. At all points in the journey, second-class airmail was lowest priority, so they just let it build up for a while. And
Yeah.
once sufficient was available, then they would deal with it. So if you added your item to the pile right at the end, just before it went, you'd be lucky and it would go fast. It would go slow. It's a lottery. Whereas if you paid for first class, full-on airmail, then it would go.
Full-on airmail's a lot of money these days. So it's second class. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, I'm sending postcards. I was just about to send a post. I haven't done it for ages. I've got one or two friends in Malaysia. I'm about to send him a postcard. You know how much it's going to cost? £1.85.
Good gracious. Where to?
Whereas he can send one to me, I believe, I think it's either 40 or 50 cents, which is to about 10p.
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it?
This was to Malaysia?
This is to Malaysia. This is, in fact, this friend's in Penang. Yeah.
Good grief. Ah.
Yeah.
£1.85 for a postcard.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Then Royal Mail wonders why the volume of mail is decreasing.
Yes.
Yeah, because I did this, I swapped a lot of postcards about 10 years ago with quite a lot of friends in Malaysia who are post-crossing. I have a lovely collection because they sent me them back, of course. As I remember, it cost me about 70, 80p a postcard. £1.85.
Yeah.
It's about to, and I think in April it's going to go up to £2.
For a postcard, it's pointless, isn't it? Effectively, because presumably a letter's not that much more expensive.
No, it's just so that's the rate for a letter for up to 100-gram letter.
So you can get a lot of postcards in your letter then, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, easier to put them in an envelope, isn't it?
No, but you've got 100-gram limit, so you'll very quickly get done if you try and go over that.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yes,
The Royal Mail, they'll weigh them.
But 100 grams is still quite a significant amount, isn't it?
Yeah, so you could put you'll get 2 or 3 postcards in there for that.
Yeah.
Of course, I want my friend wants postcard with nice stamps and what have you on it.
And he wants them cancelled as well.
Stamps, they were just released.
So what you do is you put a stamp on, you go down to your local friendly post office and get them to cancel it with the counter stamp. Then you put them in an envelope and send them.
The spirit of Habui Hon is alive and well. And
Yes. Yes, find your friendly post office, yes.
And as far as I'm aware, there are no Christmas seals to be put on, which would have been nice.
Oh, shame.
Going.
Oh, right.
I could be wrong on that. I don't think there are any British Christmas seals to be had now.
Well, I don't think I've seen any for a long time.
They all stopped in Malaysia in the 1980s or so.
There was a short period, I seem to remember, in the UK when they were given away. You used to get a little envelope from the charities, which included a sort of sheet, a miniature sheet of seals and a biro or something with an invitation to donate to whatever the charity was. But that was a long time ago, 1980s, 40, 50 years ago.
Mm.
But that was about the end of the seals, I think. That was about the last time I remember seeing Christmas seals in the UK.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah, we did get seals with the smilers, didn't we? You've got
yes.
Extraneous things, because I've still got some lurking.
So have I, yes.
Yeah. The trouble is there are all sorts of things like happy birthday and with love and happy anniversary, but I don't think there was a Christmas one.
Wasn't a happy divorce, was it?
I'm not sure. There's every possibility, isn't there?
Yeah, with a picture of a smiling lawyer.
Yes.
Sorry if there's any lawyers with us.
Sort of un-Christmas seals, yes.
There we go. So
Okay. I'm hoping next week to have completed the final batch of Sarawak skeletons. So I suspect I'll send a message out to everybody, but it's likely to be the third set of Sarawak skeletons. And look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Yep.
Cheerio. Thank you to you,
Cheers.
Tom.
thank you, Tom.
Okay, cheers, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Bye then.
Thank you.
Cheers all. Bye.
Cheers all.